No, it's been like 5 years since it ended. Get over it already!
Nothing screams shitstorm better than the DreamWorks animated revival of the 80s cartoon Voltron. Voltron, Legendary Defender, released in 2016 on Netflix to some nice audience reviews. It certainly was a spin on the original series, with many elements being changed to fit the more modern audience. Yet, despite that, fans loved the show, both new and old. But as the series went on, it just started to get worse. By the 7th season, everyone was left wanting something a little more. But it's not that hard to fuck it up, right? Even if the show itself went down the gutter, what really matters here is the fandom. They keep the show alive even if it's in a decrepit and dead state, with things like fan art, AUs, and of course, fanfic. Yet, one fanfic stands out in particular, and is a defining feature of the VLD fandom. Besides the fan who literally held confidential storyboards for ransom unless their favorite shit became canon, and the one who put glass into cupcakes to give to the crew, but that's another story for another time. Enter Dirty Laundry, a fanfiction written in 2016, just a month after the show's release. It then continued being updated for a few months, but not without its fair share of controversies to accompany it. It's certainly a tale for the ages. So let's dive into the story itself, and the reception behind it. Now, to know the entire lore about Dirty Laundry, we need to talk about the show it's based off of. So let's do a quick recap of the show.
I say Vol, and you say Tron!
VLD's premise is that these 5 people on Earth end up becoming the Paladins of Voltron, a gigantic robot that they use to defend the universe from the evil Gaulan Empire. Compared to the original 80s series or any of the other previous series, the plot and characters are wildly changed, having the cast be way more diverse in ethnicities, genders, and even sexualities, though that last one's only really for the character that they replaced, so make of that what you will. Rest in peace, Sven. Gone but never forgotten. Despite a lot of the obvious visual differences, many things weren't really known at the start of the series, as many of their original 80s counterparts look similar, as you would expect. A lot was up in the air and up for interpretation, and fans took that to their advantage with their fan works. Dirty Laundry was published to Archive of Our Own on July 11, 2016 by Gibbslive. It began to quickly gain in popularity on both Tumblr and AO3, progressively beginning to take over tags on the former and rise in the ranks of kudos on the latter, reaching its peak of being the second most kudoed fic on the entire site in its prime. The story ended up finishing on October 24, 2016, but that was after a long and hard battle with the fanbase. Eventually, 2 years later, the story would be fully deleted. So, what was in this story that caused it to get to this point?
We had a bonding moment. I cradled you in my arms. Nope, don't remember. Didn't happen.
The story is a modern-day college AU, with our 5 favorite paladins being classmates in an Oregon college. Lance Sanchez is stressing out because he accidentally told his family he was going to be bringing a boyfriend home for Christmas, which introduces 2 problems. Firstly, Lance doesn't have a boyfriend, which is relatable content. And secondly, Lance's abuela isn't the most approving of gay people. Again, so me for real. Not the abuela bit, the other half of that sentence. Anywho, the rest of the group can't help. Shiro is going to be at Allura's place, Hunk is going to Hawaii for a family wedding, and Pidge denies with pure scariness. That leaves only one person: Keith Young. He's staying in Oregon over Christmas break, but he vehemently denies going along with Lance's stupid plan. Yet, Lance says that he'd do anything, which piques Keith's interest. After some discussion, the two agree. Keith will be Lance's fake boyfriend, in exchange for 2 months of Lance doing Keith's dirty laundry. Then the two of them set off to Mesa del Caballo, Arizona, to meet the Sanchez family. Consisting of Lance's mother and father, 2 sisters and 2 brothers, nephew and niece, the family is certainly something else. Here's a diagram of all the important figures in the family, because they all are important in one way or another. Memorize it, we'll need it. Probably. You'll notice though this 5th sibling, Sophia. She left the family when she got pregnant at 17 and hasn't been heard from in 6 years. I'm sure that won't be relevant later. Most of the story is your standard enemies to lovers affair. Keith slowly begins to fall for Lance, and Lance does as well, yet neither of them would dare admit it. Interspersed between these 2 idiots trying to figure out their feelings are several bumps in the road, however. Whether it be Lance's father, Jamie, being pretty bigoted towards his son's sexuality, to Lance telling Keith to try and stay out of his family's issues because he's an orphan, to Keith trying to not cry anytime the Sanchez family welcome him in with open arms, the path to a loving relationship sure is a bumpy one. Clearly, Lance and Keith are polar opposites. Keith is an emo boy at heart, being a more introverted and shy man who listens to My Chemical Romance and Depeche Mode. Lance, on the contrary, is a very animated and happy guy who indulges in Beyonce and Kesha. As the trope goes, however, opposites attract. And this is an AO3 fic after all, so we all know that the trope will come true. Things escalate from there, and things seem to be better. Lance begins to try and work together with his dad about his sexuality, reality, Keith feels at home with his newfound family, and Lance and Keith are figuring out what they truly are. And this comes to a head at a group date in a laser tag arena, where Keith kisses Lance. This wasn't of his own volition, but of Rachel's, Danny's wife. She was blackmailing Keith in the game. Lawyer moment. And Keith wouldn't admit it, but he wanted this to happen and reveled every moment. Then the long-awaited moment happens. Abuela Sanchez arrives at the home. She isn't as scary as Keith thought she would be, at least at first. But remember that estranged sister that left the family years ago, Sophia? Yeah, she decides to show up with her daughter in tow and bring her drama into the family mix. My foreshadowing is really good, huh? Clearly, things are tense, and Abuela decides to try and make things better by sending the Sanchez siblings and Keith Christmas tree shopping. On this trip, they bond over gasolina, which is real. Gasolina fucks. Then they get back and do some decorating before Keith realizes that he never got any gifts for anyone. Specifically for Lance, his fake boyfriend, and the rest of the family he grew to love oh so much. And that definitely would not only blow his cover slightly, but also make him feel bad. And so Sophia drives Keith to get some gifts, telling her story along the way. Keith gets several gifts for the Sanchez family, including a custom mixtape for Lance and a very sentimental book for Lance's mom. Before dinner time on Christmas Eve, Keith hands Lance the mixtape, accidentally confessing his feelings along the way. Lance doesn't reciprocate them, wanting to deal with his family first. Then the dinner happens, and all hell breaks loose. Arguments over Lance's sexuality and Sophia's arrival spawn all over the table, words being flung around by damn near everyone, and while Keith tries to calm down Lance reveals their fake relationship. Keith, without a word, grabs a random set of keys and drives away. No phone, no wallet, no care in the world. The family then go about trying to fix this mess. Abuela is henceforth banned from the Sanchez house, Lance and Sophia make up, and then they all try to find Keith. Lance realizes here that he truly does have feelings for Keith, and gets the help of Pidge to get Keith's location. McDonald's a few towns over. With the amount of McDonald's this boy has eaten within this story, I'm starting to be concerned for his health. There, Lance's mom helps Keith get out of his depressive slump before setting in Lance himself to work things out. After a bit of anger, an apology, and a dance segment, Keith and Lance agree to go on a date and work out their feelings together. And the story ends with the two of them in the Sanchez family house, slow dancing to Stand By Me. How sweet. A story of a troubled man finding comfort in a new family. One that has their own problems, no doubt, but one that could work through them. What's not to love? Well,
I come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's a bitch-ass motherfucker.
with high ratings comes a lot of attention, and that attention may not all be positive. As the story took off, there were several positive reviews and reactions online. Many other fanfiction authors took heavy inspiration from Dirty Laundry and gave credits where they were due. Lance's family name, Sanchez, is a prime example of this. In the show, he doesn't really have a last name. The closest surname we have is McClain, originating from the original 80s show, but many perceived Lance as Latino or Hispanic before he was confirmed to be Cuban, and out of wanting to mimic this legendary fic, they chose the family name Sanchez. Even the other family members' names are used in other fics, like Rosa being Lance's mom, for example. There was no doubt in anyone's mind this fic was popular. Yet that wasn't all well and good. Many other authors wanted to separate their story from the so-called Clance Bible. Many fans of Dirty Laundry would invade other fics' comment sections, finding any resemblance to Dirty Laundry and connecting the imaginary dots, causing a slew of irrelevant comments. And those comments rubbed a few authors the wrong way. I love Dirty Laundry, but back when I wrote on Wattpad, I was constantly getting comments about it. The only thing they had in common was it was a modern AU and I had his abuela in it. Imagine 60 comments alone that just say, Abuelita is coming. Side note, Abuelita is coming was an in-joke reference to the story. Someone commented on my Clans fic, this is almost as good as Dirty Laundry. Is that supposed to make me feel good, LMAO? It was clear the fandom loved the story, so much so that they invaded other stories to spread the word. It really is like the Clan's Bible, huh? Yet that was not the worst to come. There was still a hell of a storm on the horizon. Many readers commented about the story's depiction of Mexican and Latino culture. The stereotypes of a giant family, bigoted and religious parental figures, the use of La Chancla in a scene, and even singing along to Gasolina were all things that people brought up as being racist. Another side note here, I've seen people say that Gasolina was used as a love ballad and Lance and Keith danced to it, but it was more of a family bonding moment song. I don't know if anything got edited, but that's what I read and that's what I can find in the earliest versions available to me. Also, I'm pretty sure the La Chancla reference got removed in an edit because I've never seen it. Either way, this caused Gibbslight to issue a PSA on July 28, 2016. It's been brought to my attention that Dirty Laundry is enforcing negative stereotypes about Latino and Mexican culture, and after much thought, I've decided that I completely agree. I'll admit, I'm ignorant. I'm white, and that right there is proof that I am out of my element. While I did do research on some things, I definitely didn't do enough research on other things. I was naive. I am naive. and I was somewhat caught up in this fame of a fanfic that I posted purely for fun. The gasolina and la chancla mentions were disrespectful, and although at the time that didn't process in my mind, I now recognize that they are incorrect. I can guarantee you that I never meant to be harmful. It was me being arrogant and insensitive and not thinking things through. However, that is absolutely no excuse, and I'd really like to face the consequences. In this PSA, Gibslythe also said that they would get a Latino or Mexican beta reader to help them out in making sure the stuff in the story was okay. Of course, users argued amongst themselves over whether or not this apology, and the story as a whole, was good enough. How do you find it in you to apologize for blatant racism, and then go ahead and ask for someone of that same culture to hold your hand and just pretend like you hadn't gone ahead and enforced disgusting stereotypes that you f***ing white people have said on us? Do us all a favor and delete your f***ing story. Gibslythe is literally admitting to the fact that they majorly f***ed up. You screaming at them isn't helping them out. You're obviously not going to be a part of the solution, so bounce off. Stop trying to police how Latinos feel when being faced with violently racist stereotypes and tropes. Why are you expecting Latinos to hold Gibslythe's hand and walk them through the rest of their bullshit story when the story shouldn't even exist in the first place? My name is Lorena and I'm from Mexico. I appreciate this fanfic a lot because I can relate to a lot of the situations portrayed in it. I have a big family, most of my familiars are homophobic, I have a grandmother who's religious but she is so wise and forgiving. I know the lyrics to Gasolina and I sing it even when it's not cool anymore. I laugh at the chancla jokes. There was a point when I said, this is so true, Lance is pretty much like me, so please, don't be rude with the author. I don't think that their story is racist. I believe that every person is allowed to make mistakes, to learn from them, to become a better person, and that's what the author is doing. A lot of your characterization / plot relies on stereotypes. Just know that you offer a limited perspective of Latinos, and that you could easily write a fic about clans in any situation. But by choosing one that specifically delves into Latino cultures and identities, you're taking on a responsibility that, again, you have limited experience / understanding in. I, for one, am Mexican, and everything about your story is honestly on point and not at all offensive. Your story is one of the first stories that I have ever read that has done justice to my culture, and things are very common among us Latino people, especially considering you're not Latino or Mexican yourself. Of course, with all discourse, there is going to be people on both sides. Yet, as the flames kept wafting in the direction of Gibslythe, they made another PSA post 2 days later. This post was nothing too crazy, saying that the story would be on hold as they wanted to update it all in one go, rather than updating it incrementally. The amount of negativity has become too overwhelming for me to handle. This fanfiction is no longer fun for me, but rather something that is emotionally and mentally taxing. As such, users chimed in with their own support, but we also unlock a new issue for Gibslythe to deal with. You see, in the story, Sophia, the estranged sister, has a daughter. Go figure, she left because she got pregnant. Said daughter, Alexi, is autistic, and says so during one scene at the dinner table. Alexi had frowned, almost sad that she couldn't eat the broccoli. I want to eat them, but they feel funny. Mateo had looked at his new friend curiously. Why do they feel funny? Alexi turned back to Mateo and whispered loudly behind her small hand. I have sensory issues. Then, whispering even louder, Alexi added, I am autistic. This sparked a new discussion within the fans and haters of the story, about how Dirty Laundry wasn't only racist, but ableist as well. I've seen claims such as, Alexi's not autistic enough, and Alexi's not an accurate representation of an autistic person thrown around, but I cannot source them or prove their existence. I've only seen counter-arguments. The issue here is that the author has immediate family who are autistic, and modeled Alexi on her own autistic cousin. Autistic people don't owe you a second chance. Autistic people don't have to wait until your ableist schlock is complete to judge what you have already written. Alexi's autism is shoehorned in. You don't get to use your autistic friend as a token to deflect criticism. Your apologies don't mean shit unless you actually listen to autistic people who are not your one friend. Do I see the issues with Alexi's portrayal in the fic? Yes. I don't feel there's an issue with one of the first facts we learn about her being about her autism, because it's a good idea. But I don't think it was portrayed with that fully in mind, because this serves as a moment of shock for the family. Speaking as an autistic person, I don't see anything wrong with Alexi. A little kid advocating for herself and being comfortable with her diagnosis? That's something I wish I could have been, rather than ashamed of myself. Dirty Laundry handled it well. And while all this is going on, there are still several comments about the racism of the story too, and it worsened by the second, spreading far and wide outside of the dedicated zones for the story. A lot of the hate did seem to be coming from white people, but there did also seem to be a sizable chunk of Latino, Hispanic, and specifically Mexican fans who didn't like the portrayal. A summary post from Pokemon Shippings tells it better. I think I saw one Mexican or Latino blogger who didn't like the fic, say that the countless Mexican or Latino people who enjoy it cannot speak for the whole, and this is true, but on both sides. The small group of haters cannot speak for the whole of the Mexican Latino community, and I think it's disgusting that something that so many Mexican Latino fans related to and saw themselves in has had to be stopped. Like, they deserve to have this nice thing that represented them. If the Mexican or Latino community had turned around and said the fic was offensive, that would be different. But it's just a small group of mostly white people. And even then, there were posts that condemned other users for bullying Gibbslife into halting updates and feeling horrible. And near the start of this section, I talked about fans of the story putting in their tags and notes of their own fics that they were inspired by Dirty Laundry. But now the notes and tags were trying to avoid a Dirty Laundry fiasco, and even changing their stories to try and avoid it. I initially had written that Lance had thrown one of his lion slippers, but after bearing witness to the Dirty Laundry fiasco, I decided that it was safer to put something else to avoid a potential shitstorm about it possibly being a La Chancla reference. Chaos was unfolding, yet the show must go on. The last chapter was indeed uploaded, all at once, the last update to the story being made on October 24th, 2016. Then things seemed to die down. Many posts continued, this time on the side of Gibbslife, condemning haters who had bullied them relentlessly throughout the production of this fic. But this all came to an end 2 years later.
According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way that a bee should be able to fly.
On August 15th, 2018, Gibbslife posted a photo of a new version of Dirty Laundry, now titled Dirty Lawn B. The summary had changed as well. To be free is to cast away the shackles that hold you down. And an author's note that read, "I wrote this for me, and then the fandom made it toxic. I've healed. I've made friends through this fandom. I've found my love of Voltron again, but I need to be rid of the thing that holds me back. I've done what I can to cleanse myself, my life, and my headspace." The entire story was changed to the B-movie script as well, virtually removing the story from existence. Reactions to its deletion were somewhat mixed. Some sad the story was gone, some happy that Gibbslife moved on, some angry at what caused it in the first place, and some finding the new B-movie variant hilarious. Either way, the fic was eventually fully deleted by Gibbslife. Yet, of course, the internet never forgets. Not only have copies been made on every fanfiction platform known to man, but the entire original story is archived on the Wayback Machine. Again, post any updates that were made due to the backlash. The earliest capture I can find of the first chapter is from October 2016, after the last edit was made. And even after the story's deletion, there are still people who enjoy it and maybe even find comfort in it. I read the story for the first time in 2019, just after finishing the show. My friend had told me to read it, and I did. Year after its deletion, and a year after the show's ending. And reading it again now put this new emotion in my chest. Yes, the one the story portrays, because I'm an emotional bitch and am easy to please, but one of some kind of nostalgia, bringing me back to my freshman year of high school, procrastinating on studying for finals by watching VLD on a pirated Amazon Fire Stick. Yes, it was a dark time in my life, I know, but I missed it in a weird way. And the story still holds some sort of impact in some ways. Some people apparently only knew of the song Gasolina because of this fanfiction. I'm ashamed to admit that this story is where I heard about it first, but I've moved past that now, thank God. In fact, you can still find remnants of the fics fans in the comments of Gasolina on YouTube, shouting "Abuelita is coming" and whatnot. All in all, this story did in 2 years what many could never even dream of. It comforted, it hurt, it caused people to talk and argue, and that was all before the story was even finished. Gibbslife moved on, as they said they would, now focusing more on doing artwork rather than fanfiction. They're still around today, and I wish them nothing but the best. Their artwork looks amazing, and I hope they're doing wonderful wherever they are. As for modern things regarding Dirty Laundry, well, there was an Instagram account meant to make the story into a comic. Originally done by an artist named Tomate, it eventually started gathering the help of the community to make pages for it. Despite this, it lasted about a year and a half before becoming dormant, their last post being made in July 2022. Tomate is still around on Instagram and Twitter though, and is definitely still in the VLD fandom, retweeting Clance art really recently at the time of writing. And there's still some relevancy, especially on places like Tumblr, seeing people still make fan art and even having physical copies of the story with their own custom cover art on it. And its name may not be the most well-known thing in the online fandom spaces now, but people still remember it, either for the comforting memories they have for it or the hilarious show spectacle that unfolded live in front of their eyes. Whatever way you see it, you have to admit it packed a punch and left its mark on not only the VLD fandom, but online fandom spaces as a whole as well. Dirty Laundry is a phrase that strikes a chord with anyone who is in the VLD fandom. It's the genesis of several other fanfics like it, and its impact still reigns supreme to this day. Those 85,042 words made people feel so many things. and all in a few weeks no less. While it definitely isn't the craziest thing to come out of fandom, again the glass cupcakes incident is absolutely insane, it still holds its own in this weird f***ed up Hall of Fame. And in retrospect, now that the dust settled, I think we can look back and laugh at this dumb fanfiction, because how the hell did this stir up that much controversy? In 2016 no less, the original Dirty Laundry may be gone, but it will never be forgotten. That's for sure.
Okay, your laundry's done now. Can you stop freaking out? Yeah, sorry about that. I just get worked up over the show, you know? Whatever, man. I'm just gonna go listen to some music. Alright.